Hi everyone, welcome to this video, Business Tracking for Your Color Street Business. This is presented by Michael Livingston, owner at EZPZ Spreadsheets. Just before we get into the meat of the program, just a little bit about me. I started EZPZ Spreadsheets back in 2016. At that time, my wife had actually started her LuLaRoe business, and right around the end of 2017, she started the Color Sheet business. And back in 2016, she came to me, obviously with the proposal of starting her own business, but also like, hey, I needed a little bit of help. I'm not really good at the spreadsheet side, dollars, taxes, sales, inventory, a lot of that. And at the time, I'd been working for a food manufacturer as an analyst in production and cost accounting, and I had done a few things with her regarding her some side businesses she had done in the past. And so I took my experiences in Excel and spreadsheets and taxes and cost accounting and kind of built this program. And the first program was primarily for LuLaRoe, but as last year, 2017 went by, I've been able to expand it to some other avenues, Color Street included. And when she onboarded on Color Street late 2017, I immediately started in on building a spreadsheet specifically for Color Street. And this is the program we're going to go through today. I am a accredited small business consultant, and kind of what a small business consultant can do for you is kind of help you out with a thorough examination of your business and your business records to kind of help you find methods and procedures and different ways to come at your business, and all for maximizing profit. And that's really what the bottom line of it is. Maximizing your profit, helping you boost some gross revenues, gross profits, and then minimizing your expenses. So that's a little bit about me, what a little bit about this spreadsheet is, and let's get into it. Before we get into the actual program, let me go over just what the limitations of the program are. It's 4 things. First one is mailing. It doesn't do any of your mailing. It doesn't print out any of your labels, or it doesn't do anything like that. Programs like Stamps and Shipping Easy and Indicia all do that much better than anything I could put together. This program can help you pull some of your addresses for some of your registered customers, but it won't help you get your shipping in order. This spreadsheet doesn't do invoicing or point of sale. It's not designed to really do that. Any spreadsheets really aren't designed to do anything like that. They're pretty limited in what they can do. Again, Square, PayPal, Stripe, a lot of these other programs can do this a lot better than anything a spreadsheet could do. Thirdly, it doesn't track any of your bank account tracking. This is primarily kind of a liability. I don't want to be on the hook for, tracking or a bank statement wrong or anything like that. I don't want to deal anything with the finances per se. I will help you with your business record keeping, expenses, cost accounting, those kind of things, but not the actual flow of cash flows and things like that. Most banks, if you're with a bank, they're pretty good at being able to track all of your ins and outs, your inflows, outflows, on their kind of website per se. So that's a much better method of doing it. And finally, I am not a licensed tax preparer. I'm not a CPA. I don't have any of those. I cannot give. This is not tax or prep or tax advice. I kind of operate under the scale of, say, like a bookkeeper. They'll come in and they'll make sure help your records keep your records in order, but they don't offer any of the tax questions and things like that. So just want to go over those limitations before we go forward for this, and then just to give you an idea of what it can, what this won't, what it can't do, kind of what it's limited to do. But what can EZPZ spreadsheets do for your Color Street business? And here are 4 things that this will fall under. First is business bookkeeping, and again, we'll go through all of these as we go along the spreadsheet. You'll kind of see as we go along what the spreadsheet definitely can do, and then kind of what the limitations are. Business bookkeeping, it'll track your revenues, it'll track your expenses, it'll track your sales, it'll anything that's a business expense or revenue, the spreadsheet can track. It can do your inventory tracking, so if you do keep stock on hand and other things like that, it will be able to track that for you. It's by inflow and outflow, so if you receive any goods, strips, mostly strips, it's saleable goods, that'll tell you what's on hand, and then if you have any sales, it will reduce your stock, so it'll tell you, if you brought in 5 but sold 3, then your live inventory will show as 2. And that's how that's tracked there. It'll do some customer tracking. I don't normally do customer tracking on some of the other spreadsheets that I do, but it will do some basic customer tracking, especially for Color Street, because twosies, that's a big one. So being able to get customer information in and knowing what their addresses are. And if they do buy a lot from you personally, you can kind of get an idea of how much they're purchasing and in what quantities. And then finally, tax information. While I don't operate as a tax preparer or CPA, it will offer some basic tax information. So gross revenues, cost of goods sold, things like that. Things you'll need to file your taxes at the end of the year from a business standpoint. Things like like gross revenues and filling out, say, like a Schedule C form, either as a sole proprietor or as something a little bit more complex than that. So, but it will provide you for the basic level the tax information that you need. Let's get into the 4 parts. Again, the 4 parts that we'll go over today are the finances, your inventory, your customers, and your tax information. So your business bookkeeping. We're going to jump back and forth between this slide and the spreadsheet itself. So we'll finally get to see the spreadsheet. The first part here is the deposits to your account. So let me just pull up a quick spreadsheet here. So when you purchase the spreadsheet, this operates on Google Sheets, which is part of the Google Docs suite. You can see here I'm in Chrome, so this is my web browser, and I'm actually running the entire spreadsheet off the web. So all of your data, all of the spreadsheet itself is saved on a cloud server, and so when you access the spreadsheet, you're not actually accessing it from your computer per se or your device. You're accessing it from the cloud. The benefit to that is you can access that from any device, whether it be computer, which I have here. If you have an iPad, you can access it there. You can actually access it from a phone. I wouldn't recommend it. The screen is kind of small. It's a little hard to look up items, but if you need to look up something in a pinch, a phone will definitely do the job. If you're away, if you're at a friend's house, you can access it from their computer. All you need is your Google information. So that's the nice part about it. And I did get a few questions about where a spreadsheet like this would work. Any device that's internet connected, and you have your Google account or your Gmail account access to, you'll be able to access the spreadsheet. So that's kind of the nice thing about this kind of format. The home screen is just kind of a table of contents per se, just kind of telling you what tabs are here, and we will go through each tab in this video here today. So the first part that I was talking about on the finances side is the receipts ledger, and it's right here. This is the only section, actually This would be the deposits. And so this would be right here under the financial analysis. And what it is your money into the business. So if we click on the bottom bar here under the DEP for deposits, it'll pull up the ledger. Some basic info on any of the tabs. If you see cells shaded gray, those are input cells. If you see anything in white, actually if you look at this white cell up in the formula bar, there are formulas here, and these formulas kind of run off of the data that you input. Rule of thumb, enter data into the gray cells but not the white ones. Try not to mess the white ones. An accidental delete, or if you type something over top of it, would definitely mess up the spreadsheet a little bit. So deposits. There are 3 types of deposits for Color Street that I've written into the spreadsheet. First is commissions, second is rebates, and third is sales. Commissions would be anything that you receive due to the actions, the sales of your team, everyone below you, your legs, everyone who's below you. That would be a commission. My understanding is you wouldn't receive commission based on your personal volume or any of your sales. Anything that you sell would be kind of like a rebate, and that's why I wrote rebate. Now, you can use this however which way you want, commission, rebate. They both go to the same place, so it's just a way of giving you a kind of another subcategory set to use from. But if you just want to list them all under commission, you can. If you want to list them all under rebate, or if you want to split them, you can go ahead. But just make sure you're consistent with it whenever you do it. The third item is sales, and that would be actually listed under third party, more likely than not, or cash or check. Third party would be your Stripe, would be Square, PayPal, anything like that. You would, whenever you get a deposit in from those third party vendors, you would type in that there was a third party. Type in that it was a credit card, because that's what third parties are normally doing. And then you definitely want to make sure that you pull back any processing fees. Those would be for third party vendors only. If you had cash, say like this one was cash, you wouldn't see any processing fees, because you would just receive the cash or check straight to you. That mostly covers so as you enter in the data, just make sure it's either under cash or check or credit card, and then any processing fees, and then it'll calculate totals on the right. I wouldn't foresee a scenario where you would have both filled out. It's either or. It would either be a third party cash or check, or you get, third party credit card or commission with a cash or check. You wouldn't have either of these put out here. Subtotals for each category are on the left. If you have a loan that you pulled to pay for capital for your business, which I don't foresee with Color Street, that would be a kind of a calculator you could put there, but I don't foresee much use on that field. Before we get to some of the other parts of it, let me go over the elephant in the room. And we've had a lot of discussions about this. I am not a expert on this field either, so whatever I kind of say, definitely take it with don't take my advice as professional advice. Sales tax is yes. My understanding is that whenever you purchase inventory from Color Street, they charge you sales tax. So you've already paid sales tax for the good. Whenever you sell it, so say you purchase like a strip to sell on hand, whenever you sell it, you do not have to charge sales tax to the customer because it's already been paid. If you were to charge it again, that would be kind of double dipping. You'd have sales tax for the same good. I've heard some people just they eat the sales tax, so you would pay it and then you would just charge a customer flat standard rate with no extra sales tax, and which is perfectly fine. You would just have to eat the sales tax every time. That's okay if you are pretty low volume. The other thing you can do is charge the customer a sales tax, but it's not called a sales tax. It's something like tax paid to vendor, and that would be the item on the line. It's almost like a reimbursement or a rollover of the sales tax. So it's an indirect pay. Yes, you would pay the sales tax on the good whenever you purchase it from Color Street, but you are just asking the customer to pay a little extra when they purchase, and they are essentially paying the sales tax for you. So they're just reimbursing you for the sales tax that you had to pay. Normal situations, if this were more of a high inventory, throughput kind of business structure, Color Street wouldn't charge you sales tax as a vendor, as a retailer for them, and then you would have to charge the sales tax to the end customer. But because of the structure it's set up now, all the sales tax is covered on the front end, so you don't have to worry about that. That's mostly what I know about the sales tax. So that said, this field doesn't need to be really covered too much, and I would suspect those would be mostly all zeros. You can put, like a sales tax withheld for if you do charge that, sales tax paid to vendor kind of reimbursement. You could put it there, and then you can just, you could even change this category to, tax paid to vendor, and that would work. It's just for tracking, just to give you an idea of how much you are collecting, and not sending it to anywhere. It's just you're being reimbursed for the tax you paid. I did have a good question about free items, and I don't have a good answer for it. That would be just a good question for an accountant or a CPA. That gets a little sticky now that you have a good, like a strip that you didn't pay. Not quite sure. I'm still looking into that one. So just know that that's a hot question. We've kind of kicked that question all the way up to executive director level, and hopefully we should get some clearer answers, maybe from corporate home office for Color Street on some guidance as far as sales tax. But we'll see. That'll be something to work on in the future. Okay, I think we've covered this one. This is probably the one you'll use the most, just because it's all of your money in, all of your inflows. So you just want a place to track it here. Once you enter all of this data here, it will end up in the P&L. There is a section here that you can kind of see it's been carrying it over, and there's a section down here for the 3 types of revenue. So that's kind of where the data is going once you enter it in. It's just compiling it all for you by category, and then it kicks it up to the P&L as a total, and it kicks it by month, so you have totals by month period, and then obviously at the end of the year it's accumulating your total year to date revenues from there as well. Okay, we've covered that section. Now let's look at, so we've covered the deposits to your account, the commissions, rebates, and sales. Okay, inventory count. Why is inventory count in this part of the for business bookkeeping rather than further down for inventory? This part's important. There's a figure in the profits and losses for your cost of goods sold. So in order to accurately determine what your gross profits are and what your net profits are each month, which is probably something that you would want to see. You need this figure, and it's called cost of goods sold. And what it really is it's only the cost of the goods that you sold. It's kind of straightforward. In an indirect way, there's formulas for it. The IRS has a formula for it that it uses for the end of the year that you will use. So just kind of know that there's a formula based on what you've paid and your inventory levels. And the important part of that is the inventory levels. It needs your start and end period inventories. So on January 1, what was your beginning of month inventory? And then on January 31, what is your end of month inventory? So it's important to have those counts. And that is located here under the inventory count tab. So if you go from home in the yellow section, inventory count right there. Okay, so you can kind of see you need to be able to, at the end of every month, you'll just want to count your inventory and then enter it in here. So in this example, you can see that January is filled out and then February is waiting to fill in. So just click on the down arrow, and then it gives you there. It gives you all of the items. Now this list pulls from your products list. So once we get to the inventory section, we'll kind of go over this list here, but that's where it's pulling from. As you make your counts, it'll take the beginning of month count, which is the same as the end of month count from the previous month, and then it'll determine your cost of goods sold based on that. So that's why this is important here. And this, again, this is only for your in stock, for your in stock and your in stock sales. It's not for any of the sales that they make directly from the website under your name, things like that. That's all handled by Color Street. So that's where that one comes from. Yeah, so beginning and end of year inventory count is the most important out of all of them. So while you're doing monthly ones, while they are important for monthly period tracking, the beginning and end of year ones are the most important one for your total year, for your year. And those are tracked. If we go to home, those should be tracked under the receipts ledger here. So we'll just go to that tab. Okay, and then all the way to the right here, there's your beginning of year inventory and there's your end of year inventory, and it's the same. You'll want to enter in the style code here and then the quantity, and it gives you a value. So January 1st would go here, December 31st would go here, and then inventory count, all the other months, January through November, would go in this section here. While these are important for monthly tracking, they're not critical. If you miss a month, that's okay. It'll just mess up your monthly figures, but you must have beginning and end of year inventories in order to accurately report your data, your business data, to the IRS in April. So that covers the end of year inventory. Okay, and then so now we're into expenses tracking. This one's pretty straightforward. And home. Okay, the expenses tab is right here in the pink. Expenses. So if you click on that, and this is pretty straightforward. The date that you incurred it. There's categories here. These are kind of pretty dry categories, but those come from the IRS themselves. And then a description and what the expense was, and then any notes. Don't put any shipping expense here. That's not needed. The category comes from the Schedule C template, and then also in the reference tab. So if you click reference or ref, all the way in the bottom right, there is a section here with some descriptors as far as the actual categories themselves. I didn't come up with them, IRS did, so that's that comes from there. And then if you click on the Schedule C tab, you can kind of see where they end up here. Part 2 of the Schedule C, lines 8 through 27B, is the categories that you put in there. So if you have any questions, just go to ref. If you have any further questions, I would just ask the community, your team page or any other Color Street pages that you know, just kind of asking, hey, where would you put this? And I'm sure a lot of people would have a good idea of where they would put that. Okay. Yeah, so that covers expenses, pretty self-explanatory. Now that you have your money in, your money out, your inventory, now you can start calculating things like profits and losses, and then your estimated tax withholding. So all of this filters back into the P&L. You can kind of see here, we have the revenues, which we talked about, the cost of goods sold, which we talked about, which is calculated from what you, how much you brought in. Sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. There is a third item that you will need to put as far as the cost of goods sold. You need to, right here in the receipts tab, your inventory purchases. That's important. So whenever you purchase inventory from Color Street, even if it's at their full cost, enter it here. You need to, every time that you purchase inventory, and that's only for inventory that you are bringing in for your in-stock. And this would also only for saleable goods. If you purchase twosies, if you purchase supplies, that's not for here. That's a business expense. This is only for saleable goods. So things such as strips. If you purchase strips from another consultant, then yes, that would go here as well. So say you're at a swap, or you're at another consultant's house and you decide to, hey, can I have a couple strips of this? And you buy 2. You would enter those here as well. Okay, so that's any time that you're bringing in goods for you for sale. Those will filter in here under the cost of goods sold along with the inventory figures that you've entered. So that's where that the sum of these minus cost of goods sold becomes your gross profit. And that's just your basic, here's what I brought in. Here is the costs of some of the goods that I sold, and then here's what I have left over. After that, you subtract all of your operating expenses, so all of those summed up together right here, and then you end up with profit loss. And that's for the month period only. Don't be alarmed if you see an off figure on one month followed by kind of a swing the other way the other month. Sometimes with end of month, right over that month threshold, some figures can kind of end up in the wrong reporting period. And then that's why it throws it off. So if you have any questions on if a profit loss or anything like that looks off, just go all the way to the right and make sure that your year-to-date looks pretty good. And that's the big figure that, kind of the end figure that you're going off of. Okay. Once you have a profit loss, what you can do then is it gives you kind of an estimated, hey, here's what I'm expected to bring in. This is my take-home pay. This is what I'm bringing in. How much of this, this is what I will be reporting as income for me personally. Okay, so how much should I set aside for taxes? Because if if I make quite a bit come April, that's going to be quite a hefty tax bill because you hadn't paid taxes throughout the year. So the beauty about a spreadsheet like this is, as you enter your figures in, as you close a month period and you go on to the next, you kind of have an idea of like, oh, this is how much I should probably set aside. Okay, I brought in $450 in January. I should probably set aside about $100 of it just for taxes. So, pull that out of your account, put it into a savings or a separate checking, or pull it out as cash and put it under your mattress, something like that. As long as you have that kind of stored at the end of the year when your tax bill comes, and it says you owe, $1,200, you'd be like, oh, okay, I have that, so I don't have to go scrambling for tax bill. At lower levels, it's not too bad, obviously with, let's say $500 a month times 12, you're only looking at about $1,200 in potential taxes. But if you get up there, if you're selling 100,000, or if you're bringing in, even 50, 60, 70,000, that can be quite a tax bill. If you think about it, if you're working a full-time job and you're bringing in a level like that, your tax bill is pretty high. And if for someone who hasn't collected anything in taxes all year, that'll be that can be quite a surprise. Come April, trying to scramble for a high dollar amount for taxes. So kind of the end game of this here is, as you're building it, it kind of gives you what the estimated tax would be for each month, and then an estimated tax per quarter, just in case. So this percentage is actually calculated in the reference tab right there. 25% is kind of a default rate that I set it at. You can change it to whatever you want. I would suggest going as high as you are willing to. One thing that a lot of sole proprietors, especially, don't understand is you are paying two types of tax as a sole proprietor. You're paying income tax, and there is a self-employed tax that goes on top of that. So for sole proprietors, their tax rate is actually upwards in the 30-40% range. So just try to be as conservative as you can. Obviously, don't pull everything out for tax, but pull what you can. Be conservative, and let's just say it's better to have an excess. It's better to have a tax return than to have to pay tax. Kind of that vein of thought there. So, that just covers the tax portion of that there. Okay, and with that covers the kind of business bookkeeping part. Here, so we can, again, from a more basic level, it's money in, money out, and then being able to calculate it throughout the year. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about inventory. There's a few things to track here, and the first item is that from an inventory standpoint in the spreadsheet, what you're managing is just the inventory that you're carrying. And this would not be anything that customers buy directly from the website. It would just be things that you bring in and take to a vendor event or take to a nail bar and you sell offhand. Okay. All your products are managed in the products tab. So if you go back to the home, right here, products tab. Now this would be a good time to talk about the products master, okay? And the inventory summary. So there are three kind of big items here. The first thing that you want to do is to manage your products master whenever you receive it. This is everything that you will carry. If you don't have a code for it here, the spreadsheet won't be able to track anything for it whenever you do sales. So it's important to make sure that anything you're bringing in, new items, limited edition items, spring seasonal items, those kind of things, as they come in, as they're released, just come in here and enter in the style codes the SKUs and then kind of the other data here. I've preloaded a few things here, and this was just based on what was current at the time. I think around December of 17. So obviously new items have been added to this, and then older items have been discontinued. So just manage your list accordingly. If you look on the site, the style code is pretty much the name of it, and then every style code, every strip has a SKU number and then kind of a category that I've been giving it. You will need to enter the wholesale cost and retail price. For color street items here, they're the same item. It's the same cost. In a normal situation, you would bring things in at a wholesale cost, which is much lower than retail. You purchase at wholesale, sell at retail, and then you end up with profit. But in this case here, there's a different way around that. You purchase at full retail cost. You sell at full retail cost, so you're only recouping your money. But more often than not, you're getting a rebate on those sales. You're getting usually if they purchase, when you make a purchase, usually purchasing against a party where you're the hostess, so you would receive hostess rewards and other things like that. So there are other benefits. I believe someone in our group did a calculation as to what the kind of profit margin, what the realized profit margin would be for selling your goods in hand versus on the site, and it was much higher. It was kind of a roundabout way of doing it, but it was a much higher level. So that's how that works. So yeah, this is how the products master is managed. This list here feeds into the inventory summary, and this will gives you a live look at everything you're carrying. And then also we've gone over the inventory count as well. Okay. For inventory wise, you're looking at two items: inventory in, which is your receipts, and then inventory out, which is your sales. And then of course what you use to purchase the inventory. So the receipt side of it, and this is all inventory in, whenever you make an order and you receive inventory in, you would just enter it here. Reference would be like the order number you ordered it on, the date received, the actual style code, and the quantity. So every time you enter a line item here, your inventory summary changes to the positive. So for example, if you brought in 2 strips of Beijing Beauty, whenever you enter this line in the inventory summary under Beijing Beauty, you now have 2 in stock. So that's cool. So anytime you make more, order more, if you were to order more on top of that, it would add to it. Okay, so that's receipts. While you're here, just make sure that whenever you make an order that you're entering in the inventory purchase, just because that's important for your monthly tracking, and it's also important for the financials, the financial part of it here. You just need to know what you're spending to bring in your goods for in-home on-hand sales. Okay, so that's receipts. Sales are managed here under the sales tab. And you can see in the upper left hand corner, this is for on-hand sales tracking. So whenever you do make a sale, at a nail bar, or if you're out and someone sees what you're wearing and you sell a strip right on the spot, that's where that would enter here. You enter the date, the customer, the style code, and the quantity, and then if there was any shipping, if you charged any sales tax or sales tax paid to vendor, and then if you gave any discounts. So say it was a $12 strip, it was a discontinued item, and you sold it for $6, you would give a discount of $6 off a $12 strip. Okay, and that's how that would be handled here. Just like the receipts tab, as you enter a line item here, this and this will subtract. So if you have 1 Tokyo Lights on hand and you sell 1 Tokyo Lights, then your inventory summary will show zeros. Okay, so it's pluses and minuses That kind of goes, just give you an idea as to what you have on hand based on that. Okay, sales are pretty straightforward. It's, whenever you sell an item, you just enter it here, and it will help you track your inventory. So by using this, it kind of gives you an idea of like, how many Tokyo Lights do I have left, or how many Sahara Jewels do I have left? Oftentimes you're not near your inventory, so you can't go down there and count it. But if you're keeping accurate records here, all of your receipts, all of your sales, you're able to kind of pull this up. You can pull this up, hey, on your iPad or even on your phone. This would be something you could pull it up on your phone. Go to the inventory summary and you'd be like, okay, I have 2 left. That should be good. I don't need to order more. Or oh, that's getting kind of low. This is a pretty hot item. I should probably order more. So kind of gives you help as far as, hey, should I order more? What levels do I want to keep it at, based on what I'm selling? So that's kind of a really cool feature as far as inventory tracking goes for your on-hand inventory, receipts and sales, and it kind of gives you an idea of what you are selling here too as well. One thing to note is next to the sales tab is a tab called online sales. And this does not affect inventory. This does not affect your financials, anything like that. This is more for customer data, and we'll go through this in a little bit more detail when we get to the customer section. But in the early stages of writing this, there's some feedback as far as, hey, I want to know what my customers are buying, both from me and from the website. So you can enter this data here. It's set up the same way as the sales, except it's only for online sales versus on-hand sales. And again, this is not connected to anywhere within the tab. Within the spreadsheet, the P&L, inventory, none of that's connected to this. So just kind of a tracking sheet. Okay. So we've covered purchases, and then so inventory summary will give you live stock levels based on that there. So, again, just kind of as an overview, receipts, all inventory in, and sales, all inventory out. Products will cover your master list. So, you won't be able to know what inventory levels there are, or what you're selling, or what you're bringing in if this list isn't updated. So if you were to get a new item in, say like Love Scene, and this was not entered in here, and you started bringing it in, it wouldn't track it. It's just not available for tracking. So this is start here, bring in inventory here, sell your inventory here, and then monitor your inventory here. Okay, so that's inventory for this spreadsheet in a nutshell. Before we get to the next section on this list, let's go over two of the big questions I've been getting. It has to do with accounting for free strips and then accounting for like a buy 3 get 1 free, kind of a similar topic. When you bring in free strips, that is kind of, you bring it in, you'll bring in the inventory, but you didn't pay for it, or you didn't have to pay for it. So the item here, like this is an example for free items. Say you got 10 strips of Moon River. All the way to the right hand side, you would list it as received as free, or you paid $0 to acquire the strips, and that's it. Don't have to add anything else. So the system will receive 10 strips valued at $12 a piece, or $120, but you paid $0 for it, and that's where the free part of it comes in. Then when you sell it, you will sell the pieces at $12, and let's say you sell all of them here, okay, and then it'll say that you sold 12 at $12 a piece for a total of $120, but again, you paid $0 for it, so that profit will kind of show up in the calculations So you made $120 because you sold 10 or $120 worth of items that you paid $0 for. Okay, so that's kind of how. And this is a similar setup for the buy 3 get 1 free. Whenever you receive the items in the receipts tab, you would receive 3 items in of one style or 4 total, and then 1 free one here that you had received as well. But you only paid for 3, so you would bring in 4, but show that you paid for 3. And so the difference there is what covers that free part of it. And then when you sell it as normal, that will come out as well. So that kind of just shows how to handle free items, at least ones that you've carried in your stock. And it's kind of an indirect way. It's hard to see it sometimes, especially with a spreadsheet like this. But again, just bring in the items, just tell it what you paid for it, even if it was for less. And the difference between that is what covers the free portion of the inventory on that end. So that's how free items are covered for in-hand stock. Okay, now we're going to get into customers and how to track customers and all the other things that go along with that. A couple things with this sheet. Online sales are tracking for customer tracking only, and that was that online sales tab that we talked about a little earlier, and we'll show it when we get back to the form. There is a provided Google form for you to use to register customers and to register customer addresses. That'll be helpful, and we'll go over that as well. The customer tracker will help you track your customer information. A customer lookup will also help you look up individual addresses. Okay, so let's get to the sheet. The sheet, when you first open it, won't have this form responses tab along with it. There's a set of instructions to link your Google form to this. So the Google form that comes with it, and then what you'll copy is here. And what you'll want to do then is under the send, and then under the, no, I think it is, oh no, it's under responses, and you click on this little icon here. Once you've opened or created your own Google Sheet, and you have your own copy of the Google form, you'll click here, and then you will link the two together. It'll let you choose a sheet that you want to send your responses to. And so any customer who comes in will you'll send them the link to this, and they'll enter in, just enter like an email address here, just some example data here. Town, it was first one, whoops. Okay, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that covers everything. Yeah, that's optional. And once they hit submit, okay, and it takes it as recorded, what it does is the form and the sheet that's linked together, the sheet will register all of the data here. So that's why I say to use the provided one that's there instead of building your own Google Sheet. I mean your own Google form, because this one's already set up with the correct formatting and everything. But the cool part is once you link the two together, if you go to customer lookup, you can type in a name. I think that's what I said. Specified reach. No. It's not quite set up yet, but it will for your sheet. You click on the name and it gives you the address here. Okay, so that's how that works there. It's kind of cool. The customer tracking is the biggest one here. One thing you'll want to do is take the form responses and use that to fill out your customer tracker here, because what that does over to the right is it takes the data from both the sales and the online tab here and here, and anytime you log a sale under that customer's name, it will tell you under the customer tracker how many pieces they're purchasing and what they're spending. So you can kind of tell what at what level they're purchasing in, and some other things like that. So that's kind of the cool part about the customer tracker on that end. Okay, so that's really what the customer tracking is. It's logging the customers in here, getting them transferred over. So you probably take, I think it's this part here. We're going to copy, and then we're going to go to customer tracker. Okay, yeah, paste. Make sure you paste values, and then the date. Okay, just enter date here. So yeah, and now it's logged in. And then if you go to customer lookup and then go to the drop down, there it is. See, now it's registered. Okay, so that's the kind of handling that that happens there. So yeah, that's customer tracking in a nutshell. It's just to help you be able to track addresses, because I know that's the biggest thing for sending out all of the samples, and then kind of tracking who's purchasing, who's your big buyers, so you can reward them accordingly. Okay, the last little bit of information I want to go over here is the tax information, and we've gone over a good bit of it. We talked a little bit about sales tax. We talked a little bit about keeping or holding back income tax so that you're prepared for the end of the year. Well, what do you do at the end of the year? Okay, the two parts we're going to go over is the Schedule C template and a little bit more about the revenues and the cost of goods sold, but primarily with the Schedule C template. The Schedule C template is found here under the blue section, Schedule C template. Now, this one will start to fill out during the year, and I know we talked about this going over the deposits and the P&L and the expenses section. So as you enter that in, a lot of this data does get filled in. One thing to be mindful about is it won't look correct until the very end of the year, because, and this is what we talked about when we did inventory, down here in part 3 under the cost of goods sold, you have the inventory at the beginning of the year, and then the purchases, which don't total up until you've entered in all of your purchases till the end of the year. But the last part here is this line 41. It's the inventory at the end of the year. Well, you probably won't have your inventory at the end of the year until the end of the year. So when looking at this, primarily this section here, all the way down through lines 29 to 31, just know or be mindful that those won't be fully correct until the very end of the year. And this is when you actually need that form. So you run your business throughout the year, track your expenses. You can do month by month inventory checks, and month by month revenue checks. That's all done through the P&L, which you enter into the deposits and the expenses. But you won't be able to have a fully kind of fleshed out Schedule C until the very end of the year. So this is something to be mindful of, but if you do it throughout the year and you do finish it correctly, you will pretty much have a Schedule C ready to go. Quick disclaimer here that this is not your actual Schedule C. It's just a template based on the data that you've entered that will give you the figures to enter into your official Schedule C to use for your taxes. I'm pretty sure that this is an older one, so just be mindful to check that the Schedule C, if there's any updates to it from year to year, any changes that need to be made on that end. And that concludes the overview of the Color Street Edition for EZPZ Spreadsheets for Google Sheets system. I hope this was a helpful video. Just in conclusion, if there's any other additional analysis that you want to do, with a spreadsheet that collects data like this, default system gives you kind of the more basic things. But if you're looking for different things, definitely check with me at EZPZ@gmail.com. And if you have any questions regarding the sheet as well. This is kind of a comprehensive spreadsheet to help you with your color sheet business. And if there's any ways to improve it, again, you can contact me at EZPZspreadsheets.com. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.